Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This is a list of companies that I think would benefit tremendously from America needing to become more resource independent. Let's go right into it. And the inspiration for this video was the article I was reading from Virtual Capitalist and from mining.com. This is an article from 2 days ago. Pentagon moves to build $1 billion critical mineral stockpile to counter China. And this is just a little tiny bit, as you can see here. There's a list of the minerals and metals that America they are very reliant on from foreign sources, especially manganese graphite, arsenic. In this video we are going to talk about a couple of these rare earths, specifically manganese and graphite. So with that, and according to Bazinga, nice name, JP Morgan has a $1.5 trillion initiative to reshore critical metals and minerals and technologies to North America. It has become very clear that America needs to become more independent from unreliable sources of critical metals, according to the CEO of JP Morgan, which Bank of America recommends resource stocks to bet on AI due to the increased need domestic sources. And now we go into graphite, which America is basically 100% reliant on foreign sources. This is used in batteries, steel making, it's used even in nuclear reactors and, pencil. And these are like two companies I would like to mention. Graphite One. This has an NPV pre-tax of $6.1 billion and a 22-year mine life. So this is basically a tier 1 deposit, like the rule says. This company, Graphite One Inc., would be in Alaska, which means that they would be able to provide a significant amount of graphite to the United States government, and they would be in a place called Graphite Creek property in Alaska. And after post-tax, they would have a $5 billion NPV, but it would be like a 7-year payback time for them to be like profitable, They would apparently be starting between 2028 and 2029, and would apparently be starting with 48,000 tons per annum. They are the largest known graphite deposit in the United States of America. Apparently, by 2030, graphite, which is one of the largest components in lithium-ion batteries, with increasing need for batteries, is a material that's crucial for batteries. Listen to this. By 2030, the demand would literally over double. Demand from batteries, that is. Apparently, like 48% of the anode of the battery is graphite, according to Northern Graphite website, I should add. With America being highly dependent on this material and the increasing need for it in batteries and the increasing need for batteries, it seems like a match made in heaven. That by 2050, according to World Bank of 2020, or old information, that would apparently be a 5x increase in graphite demand by 2050, which is 25 years from now. And America has zero production. Zero! So this is one of, if not one of the best opportunities for the United States to get at least some of its need for material. So it would seem that they would be starting by 10,000 tons per annum. 2032, they would increase it to 100 tons per year. Those are the two companies I would like to mention. Graphite One and Northern Graphite, which is a Canadian company that is currently producing, by the way. It doesn't have as large resource as this one, but it has multiple projects though. Plans in both Canada and Namibia, if I remember correctly, or Namibia, pardon me. They are producing, but they would dramatically increase the production and would be situated in Quebec, but also one in France. So they are working with the EU. They would be North America's largest battery anode material producer in Quebec when it's online in 2027. So it depends on whether you are interested in a company that's currently producing cash flow or a company that's larger and American exclusive, but it's not currently generating cash flow. Now, rare earths. America is in desperate need for it, and the fact that China consists of like 90% of the rare earth processing, which literally, apparently, based on what I've been able to gather, it seems to be like when processing it, you literally make it usable for technology. You literally make it usable. Rare earths, what are they? There are 17 metallic elements that are used in over 200 products, according to AmericanGeoscientist.org. From applications with high-tech phones, computers, hard drives, electrical vehicles, hybrids, flat screens, televisions, in basically most of defense applications, in everything from electronic distance, guidance system, lasers, radar systems, you name it. It's in basically everything in modern world. And the fact that America is highly dependent on it. I think 80% of their uses is from imports, or a list of companies that I've mentioned a couple of times before. Resoro Strategic Metals, one of the few companies on this list that has barely moved this year, and it's one of the largest rare resources on the planet. But bear in mind that it is in Brazil, but it is a very large project. I just wanted to mention that first because that's the one that's barely moved this year. But the companies on this list that, in my opinion, seem the most promising is Neo Performance Materials, due to it's already working with the EU. They're working with Bosch to provide them with high performance magnets, and the same with EU. Rare earths are used in robotics, airspace, and defense. Apparently, magnets, or like their rare earth magnets, would have, for like magnet rare earth oxide, would have an 8% CAGR, and for defense purposes would have a 7% CAGR, according to the website. But this company is very interesting though, because they are separating the rare earths and making magnets, and they're also recycling it. So it's like almost basically in most processes of rare earths, that's why I mentioned it, and it has hasn't rallied that much Although, so the reason why I'm making this video is so that I can learn about these things, and whilst I'm learning it, Neo Performance Materials seems to be the most fitting one, or the one that hasn't rallied the most, and the one that's already producing, and it is in most of the eco chain. Energy Fuels, if I remember correctly, is currently producing a little bit. In Ucore, it would apparently be producing Q2 of 2026 apparently. And Neocorp is one of the largest rare earth resources in North America. So obviously, if you're interested in the US specifically, then the Ucore, Energy Fuels, and Neocorp. But if you're like agnostic, Neo Performance Materials, which is in Canada and the EU, and Risoro Strategic Metals, which is in Brazil. The next on the list is manganese, which is primarily used in strengthening steel, making it more resistant to corrosion. But it's also used in batteries apparently, which is manganese X energy, which Eric Sprott is also interested in, it seems. It seems to be that by 2030, they would have an enormous increase. I don't know if this is accurate, but according to Manganese X Energy Corp's website, global high purity manganese demand will increase by 10x by 2030. And this company would apparently mine it and also process it, apparently, when they get operational. And apparently China produces 90% of the world's high purity manganese, located in Canada. Canada and America are still friends, you know. And there is currently no production of manganese in North America. And it seems to be that the company would have a 47-year mine life. 47. So basically 2 generations of people, basically. And the fact that they would be able to supply North America with manganese, which could be used both for steel and for batteries, they would be able to produce 68,000 tons when started up. But they would be mining it, crushing it and leaching it, and then processing it into like high purity manganese. Eric Sprott has between 25 and 35% of all the shares of the company. Just better than mine. He's like a mining billionaire. Apparently they would have a final construction and production by 2028 and 2029. And the next is nickel, crucial for making batteries, and the fact that one of the largest copper or nickel resources on Earth is in North America. This is not in the United States, this is in Canada. With Canada Nickel Corp, which is a company we've mentioned several times on this channel. Key investors are Agnico Eagle, Samsung SDI, Anglo American, and some native tribes. They have the second largest nickel resource and reserve. They would get apparently into production or construction, I think 2036, 2037, and production 2028, 2029 if things go according to plan. Obviously, things can change, obviously. And why you should care about nickel? Why should you care? During the 70s, when OPEC had that oil embargo, OPEC had a 54% domination over the oil market. Would you like to know how much domination it's in the nickel market? 2 actors consist of 72% of the nickel production. Indonesia at 61% and the Philippines, the remaining 11%. They consist of 72%, those 2 countries, 72% of all the production of nickel is from those 2 countries. Imagine if there were like political instability in those countries. What would happen to the nickel price? You can just Google what happened to the oil price during the 70s with oil. And that was 54%. Copper, Dr. Copper as they say. Obviously it's used in everything from wiring, electronics, motors, transformers, roofing, plumbing. Like bro, it's used in everything basically. And with America being somewhat dependent on copper, I would like to mention 2 companies that are very interesting to me currently. The one I'm the most bullish on when it comes to like copper in America is Arizona Sonora Copper, which is a company we've mentioned tremendously on this channel. This company, just listen to this. Listen to this. They have, according to their website, in measured and indicated 7.3 billion pounds of copper, and in inferred they would have 3.8 billion pounds of copper. So they are basically a tier 1 deposit, and it is in North America, and they would apparently have infrastructure such as water, railroad, power, and they would be apparently starting construction or like production in 2028, 2029. A significant copper player in North America would be very interesting. And now let's go over to the next one, which is Freeport Copper, which is obviously one of the more well-known copper companies, and they are currently producing. Arizona Sonora Copper is not producing, by the way, but Freeport is producing. And by the way, you should really look at like the copper usage in data centers. Well, I'm actually going to Google. Apparently, according to mining.com, 6% of the capital expenditures for a data center is just in copper. Bro, according to Fast Markets, they estimate that between 330,000 to 420,000 tons of copper would be used by data centers by 2030. They account for 70% of all of the United States refined production, and the fact that 34% of all the copper production is from the United States. So obviously it is in Indonesia, it's also in South America, but bear in mind it has large operations in North America as well. So those are like my two copper companies that seems very interesting, because all of this is my opinion. None of this is a financial advice. Now let's go over to the next one. And the next one on the list is Uranium Energy Corp. We have talked about this company earlier this year, but I wanted to mention that this company is not only going to mine uranium, they're going to refine it and enrich it as well, which means they both mine the product and provide fuel for nuclear reactors in the future, according to the website. And apparently they would have a 38% or $38 total cost per pound of uranium. So imagine if that uranium price was at $100. And the fact that they have $321 million in cash, no debt, and they would be producing tremendous amount of uranium per year, apparently. They currently have, as of 2025, they have apparently produced or like generated $66 million in revenue with $24 million in profit. They have the largest production profile they have the largest production capacity, license capacity in North America, 12 million pounds. Does not mean they are producing 12 uranium, but they have the license capacity to be able to do it in the future, perhaps. If everything goes according to plan. Who knows? But they have several projects. They have one in Wyoming, in Texas. They have one in Saskatchewan, I think it's called, in Canada. Not the like mythical animal, but apparently in Wyoming they have a historic resource of 175 million pounds of uranium. In Texas they have 12 or 13 million pounds of uranium in measured and indicated. But apparently in Saskatchewan they have 110 million pounds of uranium. So technically this is a way larger uranium company than Energy Fuels, or a little bit larger. But Energy Fuels obviously is more into rare earths these days. So I hope you thoroughly enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you like this. Have a wonderful day. Peace.